Hey, what's up everybody? This is Jay and welcome to my tutorial for installing Ubuntu 14.04 on your computer. And this video is primarily geared towards beginners. Perhaps you're someone who has heard of Linux or Ubuntu, you're curious, want to check it out, and feel that maybe a video walkthrough would benefit you. If that's the case, then this is a good video for you. Or perhaps you have a Windows XP computer and you're concerned that Microsoft isn't releasing security updates for it and you want to prolong its life. In most cases, Ubuntu is a good way to do that. And if that's the case, this video is for you. The assumption made in this video is that you want to wipe your current computer's hard disk and have Ubuntu take over. This is not a dual boot tutorial. I already have a dual boot tutorial somewhere on my channel, so if that's what you want to do, I would look for that video instead. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you want to do, of course, is download Ubuntu. So open up your browser and you want to go to this site, www.ubuntu.com. Now, depending on when you are watching this video, this page might look different. They do change their homepage from time to time, but just look for the download button here. Just click on it and click on Ubuntu Desktop. And it's going to bring you to this page right here where it wants you to select between the 64-bit or the 32-bit version. And there's also a Mac version as well that I have not personally tested. But basically, if you're using a PC, your choice is between 32-bit or 64-bit. And you don't want to just go ahead and click the download button unless you know that your computer is able to handle a 64-bit operating system. Depending on how old your computer is, it may or may not be compatible with 64-bit. Now, generally speaking, any computer made in the last 5 or 6 years, for the most part, is going to have no problem with a 64-bit version of Ubuntu. If you're using a netbook, you probably do not want to use the 64-bit version. Go with the 32-bit version instead. If your machine is older than a Intel Core 2, you probably want to go with a 32-bit version. Some processors older than the Intel Core 2 support 64-bit, but it's beyond the scope of this tutorial to give you a full list of which versions of your processors out there support 64-bit and which ones support 32-bit. Now, generally speaking, if you only have, less than 3.5 gigabytes of RAM and you don't feel like you're ever going to upgrade it, go with the 32-bit version. If you have more than 3.5 gigabytes of RAM, then go with the 64-bit version as long as your computer was made in the last 4 or 5 years, and you're generally okay. Now, I'm going to go with the 64-bit version. I already know that my machine is compatible with that. So I click download, and it's going to bring you to this page, basically asking for a donation. I'm not going to do that in this tutorial, so to bypass this, just click Not Now, take me to the download. Now, of course, if you do like Ubuntu and find it helpful, it's recommended to, of course, donate. But anyway, I'll click this button, take me to the download, and then it's going to start downloading. This is a big file. It could take a while to download, and that's okay. You could download this and then come back to the tutorial when your download is done. I'm going to click cancel though because I've already downloaded it. I've downloaded the 32-bit and the 64-bit version to show you the difference in the file names. You see I have both downloaded here. So basically what you'll need to do is create a bootable media with the ISO file that you have downloaded. In this video, it's outside the scope to show you how to do that. So I'm going to give you some general pointers. If you have a DVD drive on your computer, then you probably want to burn this onto a DVD. It's too big to fit onto a CD. So to do that, the reason why I say it's beyond the scope of this video is because CD and DVD burning software programs are all different. I can't show you how to do this on each and every single one of them. So basically what you're looking for is to open the DVD burning application that you use on your current machine and look for an option that says Burn ISO. Do not click the data option and think that burning, saving this file to a data disk is going to do anything, because it's not. You want the Burn ISO option. So that's the one that you should choose. and it'll ask you for a file, so you just give it the one that you downloaded and click burn, and it's going to create a bootable DVD. Now, let's say, for example, that you don't even have a DVD drive. There is a way to download, or to convert this ISO to a bootable flash drive that you can use. I'll put a link to that in the description for this video. So if you don't have a DVD drive on your computer, then you'll still be able to follow along. It doesn't matter if you boot from a flash drive or from a DVD, it'll look the same. The only difference is how you get there. So on your machine, every machine's different. A lot of computers out there, F12 or similar, will get you into the boot menu when you first start your computer. Then you would select your USB flash drive you created or the DVD that you burned, depending on which one you decided or needed to go with. And I'm going to go through the installation right now. I'm going to basically use this. I'm going to use VirtualBox to show you, because it's probably the only way I can record the steps and you can see the entire process. So we could just pretend that I'm booting from a DVD from, on my local computer. So, excuse me, what I'm going to do is just click Start here, and this is going to bring up, and I'm going to press Enter here. You might have noticed a little icon showed up. You didn't have to press Enter. I just wanted to show you something. If you press Enter, it just gives you some more options. So I'll press Enter for English for my language here. And these are some extra options. You may or may not need this. By default, if you did not press Enter like I did, it's just going to go to the first option, try Ubuntu without installing. That's what I recommend you do. But the reason why I brought this up is because I highly recommend that you do a memory test on your machine. We'll just show you if you have like bad sticks of RAM, which can happen. And Linux doesn't work very well if you have bad memory. Obviously Windows doesn't either, but Linux and Windows handles bad memory chips differently, so you may have bad memory sticks and just not know it. But generally speaking, this test memory will run forever. It never stops. So if you don't see any errors come up in like 5 minutes, then you're probably okay. Just hit escape and then your machine will reboot. But anyway, if you're ready to continue, or if you just bypassed and didn't even press Enter when you saw that little icon appear, just press Enter on Try Ubuntu without installing. Either way, you'll end up going to the same place. And this is going to take a minute to show up. I want to mention that running Ubuntu off the DVD is slower than it would be on, if it was installed on your hard disk. So you might notice that it's kind of sluggish, and that's okay. Running in a virtual machine, as I am, is also going to make it run a little bit slow as well. Anyway, so when you first start up Ubuntu, after you boot it from the flash drive or the DVD, it's going to boot right into the operating system, and it's ready to use right now. It's going to show you, a list of keyboard shortcuts that are very helpful for you to learn if you want to. You don't need it, but it's pretty cool that they showed this. This is new with Ubuntu 14.04, but I'll go ahead and close it. Now, the first thing you want to do before you commit to installing this on your computer is find out how well this runs. Obviously, this is a live environment, so no changes that you make here are going to be saved unless you actually do go through the install, and this is the icon to start the installation process right here. But before you do that, just make sure that everything works, because you certainly don't want to install Ubuntu if it's not going to work on your machines. For example, if your computer has a wireless card, this here is the networking icon. It might show like a wireless icon if you have a wireless card, or it shows the two arrows here if you have a network cable plugged in, as is simulated in VirtualBox. But if you have a wireless card, click on this icon and make sure that your wireless network shows up, and go ahead and connect to it. And you'll see it listed, so you just click on it and then type in your password. If that works, then good, you're connected to your network. Just bring up Firefox. Just click on it and just go to a random web page. Doesn't matter, just make sure you can get out to the internet, because you certainly don't want to install Ubuntu to find out that your machine has an unsupported network card and then you can't get to the internet. excuse me, then that would be pretty awkward. It'd be kind of hard to fix that. So just make sure you can get out to the internet. Check out, make sure your connection is listed here. If you have a network cable plugged in, you should already be ready to go. So just take a minute, play around with the interface. Open some programs, see how things work. And when you're ready to go and commit to actually wiping out your computer, click the install button right here on the desktop. Just double click on it. And it's going to take a minute because this is a DVD running in a virtual environment. And if you're using the DVD, I bet your DVD is probably spinning up and it's quite loud right now. And here it is. This is the first part of the installation process. Basically, it just wants you to select your language. Whatever your primary language is, just go through the list, find it, and select it. Mine is English, so I will leave the default as that and click continue. And here it's just going to make sure that your hard drive is big enough. I guess 6.4 gigabytes is the least that you can have. It doesn't have to be connected to the internet. It does have to be connected to the internet to download updates, because you have an option here, download updates, install the MP3 plugin, which is needed to play MP3s. I recommend you click both. And you can only do this if you have an internet connection. Now, I'm not going to have either one selected because it's just going to make the tutorial take longer. But I recommend that you select both of these. And then once you've done that, click continue. And here we have a choice on how we want to set up the hard drive. We could just erase the disk and install Ubuntu. That'll basically blow away your drive and start the install process. If you do this and have this selected and then click install, your hard drive is deleted right then. Everything on your drive, obviously I assume you backed up all your important files before you even started this process. But for me, I'm going to show you my preferred approach to installing Ubuntu. So for this tutorial, I'm going to click something else because I want to set up the hard drive manually. There's nothing wrong with clicking erase disk and just doing that. The choice is yours, but I recommend that you choose something else. Click continue. And here I'm running this in a virtual machine. This virtual hard drive has never been used before, so there's no partitions listed here. This is kind of the equivalent of buying a hard drive at the store that you've never formatted before. That's kind of what this is, and if that's the case, you'll see the same thing, but most likely you'll see a list of partitions here. Either way, click New Partition Table because we want to blow away whatever's there, and in my case, there's nothing anyway. In which case I have to click New Partition Table because the options to add a partition are grayed out until I do. And basically, excuse me, it's saying to, basically by doing this you're blowing away your entire hard drive, and that's exactly what I want, so I'll click Continue. And now it's showing me, I have some free space here to work with. Again, if you already had an operating system installed on your hard disk, you'd want to do a new partition table. Either way, you'll have something similar to this. So let's create some partitions. Now, first of all, you want to select your free space, click the plus icon, and then you're going to be given a choice of how big you want the partition to be. Now, the first partition we want to create is the root partition, or we Linux people say slash. So we want to create that. I recommend about 24 to 30 gigabytes or so. Just a recommendation. Obviously, if you have a really small hard drive, it may not make sense to partition, so you might just go back and choose the take over entire hard drive option. But 24 to 30 gigabytes around there is good enough for your slash or your root. So then you choose the mount point is just the first one listed, just the root or slash, which can be confusing because there's a slash root partition. But anyway, it's just a single forward slash. That's the first partition that you want to create. So go ahead and click OK. And it's going to format it. Its default checks it to format. It has to, because slash is where the operating system, the distribution itself, is going to be installed. And I know Windows users might be thinking, well, that's not a lot of space here. Well, for Linux, that is plenty. Most Windows 7 installations can take most of this right here just from the operating system, but Linux is probably only going to take like 8 gigabytes of this, and maybe after you start downloading updates, it might grow to like 10 or 11 gigabytes. programs might push you to like 15 gigabytes. Use your best discretion. You could make this 30 gigabytes if you wanted. Certainly no more than 40. That's kind of overkill. But this should 24 to 30 gigabytes is fine. So what we want to do is create another partition. So select the free space, click the plus sign. And what we want to do is create what's called swap. Windows users might know this as your paging file. Basically, when RAM gets full, this is what's going to be used. It's not recommended in Linux to go without swap. There's arguments on both sides, but I stand firm. You should have some swap space. So generally speaking, how big do you want to make this? Well, generally speaking, you should make this equal to the amount of RAM that you have. But if you have a machine with a crazy amount of RAM, like say 16 gigs, that's way too much space for your swap file. Swap is used for two things. One, when your RAM gets full, it's going to use a swap partition as kind of like stand-in RAM. But it's also used for hibernation. If you plan on using hibernation, then you have to set it the amount of space as your actual RAM. So if you have 16 gigs of RAM, you would want to make the swap partition 16 gigs. But most people don't use hibernation. Most people just suspend a RAM, which is also known as sleeping or standby. In that case, you really don't need to create more than 2 gigabytes of swap space. So basically, if you don't plan on using hibernation, just make this in the ballpark of 2 gigabytes. I know this isn't exactly 2 gigabytes, but it doesn't matter. That's fine. And then you select swap area. You want to create this as primary, in my opinion. You can create logical, unless you're creating more than 4 partitions. I don't see a point in doing that, so I'll make it primary. That's my swap area. I'll click OK. And it's going to compute that. Now in my case, I'm left with about 145 gigabytes. And so what do we do with that? Well, that's the whole point of why I'm partitioning this way, is to create a separate home partition, which is a great idea because that is saving your personal files on its own partition. So when you want to reinstall Linux someday, should you ever have to, you could just format this partition / which is your operating system or your distribution, and not format your home partition that we're about to create, and then your files would just not be touched. You would be able to reinstall your distribution but keep all your data, and that's a great thing to do. It's always highly recommended in Linux. So whatever's remaining, claim all of that for home. So just leave that whatever it is, make it primary. You can leave ext4, that's fine. Go down to /home, click OK. And of course it's going to need to format it this time because it didn't exist before. But if you were reinstalling your distribution and you wanted to retain your /home partition, which is all your documents, make sure this is not checked. That's all you got to do. So now click the install button, and it's going to immediately start formatting and installing Linux right away. Of course, it's going to take a minute because this is a VM, so let's give this a moment to finish or get started. Basically right now it was formatting. So anyway, the next screen is going to ask you to select your time zone. This is going to affect your time synchronization. I'm close to Detroit-ish. Sometimes it's hard to click. That arrow, I guarantee you, is not really centered on Detroit. It's kind of weird. I guess it's close enough. Detroit's the closest region to me, but you just basically click on the map as close as you can to wherever you are, and that'll set your time zone, that'll set your time, so it'll synchronize automatically to a time server to update your clock, and that's what you want, especially if you're using syncing tools. Anyway, click continue once you've done that. And the next screen is you're going to select your keyboard layout. If you use a different language or something, or a different kind of keyboard, feel free to go through this list, select which one you like to use. There's several options here, and once you've selected one, you could click inside this box and just type on your keyboard, just make sure it works. And if you use any special keys for other languages, that stuff works too. You can click detect keyboard layout if you're not sure. It defaults to English though, so if that's what you use, then just go ahead and select, keep the defaults and click continue. Now you want to create your username. Just put your first and last name here on the first box. In the second one, just name your computer whatever your computer is named. I'll just say I'll just call it my first name, Ubuntu. That's fine. Choose a username, whatever you want. You'll need to remember what this is. I always make mine first initial, last name. You know, it doesn't matter. You can name your username whatever you want. That's fine. You're going to want to choose a password, a decent one. I'm just going to choose an easy one instead because this is just a tutorial. Type the password in both boxes. You can choose to make it log in automatically should that benefit you. Maybe you don't want to have to log in every time. If you're using a laptop, you probably should want to make it require a password to not make it too easy for people to get into. The choice is yours. Encrypt home folder. If you're concerned about security, if your laptop was to ever get stolen and you have like some really private things on there, you could select that. Keep in mind, you won't be able to easily upgrade your Linux installation to the next version. I mean, you can, but you're certainly not going to be able to easily reinstall Linux and keep your home partition. So that's up to you. Anyway, I'll click continue. And it's just going to give you like a little slideshow. It was installing the entire time, but you know, we were setting more options while it was already starting the work in the background. This can take, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes on really slow machines, or as few as 5 minutes on a faster machine. But what I'm going to do is just pause the video and I'll resume it as soon as this is done. Okay, everybody, we're done. The install finished. It did everything it needed to do. So once that's done, you will see the installation complete pop-up as I see right here. And I'll just click Restart Now. And if you are using a physical version, or excuse me, a physical computer, what it's going to do is eject the DVD if that's what you used. Otherwise, it's going to just restart. As you see here, it says remove installation media and close the tray. You can see some errors here. Again, VirtualBox, that happens during startup and shutdown. That's normal. You wouldn't see that on a physical machine. So anyway, I'll go ahead and press enter. And it should start up right into Ubuntu. And here we go. Here's a login screen. The username I created during the installation is selected by default. There's also a guest session if someone wants to use your computer and you don't want them to use your own account. So I'll just type in my password and it should boot me right into the desktop. And let me go ahead and stretch the window a little bit here. And it's not going to automatically stretch in VirtualBox actually because I don't have the VirtualBox extensions installed. But on an actual physical machine, of course, it's going to look a lot better than this. I know everything is huge and there's not a lot of screen real estate here. That's just a VirtualBox problem. If you're installing this on an actual computer, it would take up your full monitor and look actually normal. So anyway, with that said, that was your tutorial on installing Ubuntu 14.04. I hope this video helped you out. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be making more videos for you very soon.